First lesson is 13.5, comparing fractions using benchmarks. I can use what I know about the size of benchmark numbers to compare fractions, and I can also reason with math. Mr. Evans wrote 2/4, 4/8, 2/8, 4/8, 6/8, 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, and 7/8 on the board. He then circled the fractions that were closer to 0 than to 1. Which fractions did he circle and which fractions did he not circle? Solve these problems any way you choose and explain how you decided. So we know that if we put this over here, it is 1/8. So let's make this and we know that 4/8 is the same as 1/2. So over here we have 1/8, 2/8, and 3/8. Then over here we have 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and we know that 1 is equal to 8/8. So we can use reasoning. Benchmarks like 0, 1/2, and 1 are useful when comparing fractions of the same whole. So up here it says which fractions did he circle and which fractions did he not circle. So the closer to 0 is the 1/8, 2/8, and 3/8. Closer to 1 is 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. Okay, you're on page 697. Down here, it says Eric says that 3/8 is closer to 1 than 0 because 3/8 is greater than 1/8. Is he correct? He used benchmark numbers to evaluate his reasoning. So no, because both are less than 1/2. Here, closer to 0, they both fall under those numbers. So no, he's not correct. How can benchmark numbers be used to compare fractions? Carrie wants to buy 2/6 of a container of roasted peanuts. Alan wants to buy 2/3 of a container from a same size container of roasted peanuts. Who will buy more peanuts? So we can compare fractions to commonly used benchmarks numbers such as 0, 1/2, and 1, just like we did on the other page. Compare each fraction to the benchmark number 1/2 and then see how they relate to each other in size. 2/6 here is less than 1/2, but 2/3 is greater than 1/2. So 2/6 is less than 2/3. Remember, 2/6 and 1/3 are equivalent fractions. Alan will buy more peanuts than Carrie. Candace buys 2/8 of a container of roasted peanuts from the same size container as those used by Carrie and Alan. She says 2/8 is between 1/2 and 1, so she buys more peanuts than Alan. Is Candace correct? So here's where you could draw out that thing again. Just like we looked at earlier, we know that here is going to be 4/8 because that's half. This is 8/8. So it's asking you, she says 2/8 is between 1/2 and 1. Is that true? No. 2/8 is before 1/2 because 1/2 is going to be 4/8. So if you move on to the guided practice here, and now you're on page 699. If Tina used benchmark numbers to decide that 3/8 is less than 7/8, do you agree? Is 3/8 less than 7/8? Yes. Because 3/8, then 4/8, then 5/8, 6/8, then it would be 7/8. So yes, 3/8 is less than 7/8. Write two fractions with the denominator 6 that are closer to 1, 0 than 1. So remember, you always start with 1 over 6, 2 over 6. Start with something that's closest to 0. You know 6 is equal to 1. Write two fractions with the denominator of 8 that are closer to 1 than 0. So here you need to know that 8/8 is 1. So what comes before that? 7/8. And before that would be 6/8. They have to have the denominator of 0. Remember, the denominator is the bottom number. Here it says choose the fractions 1/8, 1/4, 6/8, and 3/4. Which fractions are closer to 0 than to 1? So we know that if it has a 1 on top here, okay, and we know that 4/8 is 1/2, and we know that 2/4 is also 1/2. So anything before that is going to be closer to 0. This is what that asks you, closer to 0. So we know 1/8 and 1/4. The closer to 1 here is going to be the 6/8, the 3/4. Use the two fractions with the denominator of 8 to write a true statement. So 1/8 is less than 6/8 in that problem. Down here, it's asking you to choose the fractions and which ones are closer to 0 than to 1, and which are closer to 1 than 0. And your job is to do the rest of these problems. On the back, who has walked closer to 1 mile than to 0 miles? Remember, closer to 1 mile, you need to find those half markers. Okay, remember, half markers, your whole markers. Okay, same with this one. Who has walked a fraction of a mile that is closer to neither 0 nor 1? So neither 1, probably the middle numbers. Raul compares two wholes that are the same size. He says that 2/6 is less than 2/3 because 2/6 is less than 1/2 and 2/3 is greater than 1/2. Is he true? So we can do this. 2/6 and you have 2/3. If you time this by 2, it equals 4/6. Now it's asking you, is this true? So I want you to answer that question in your workbook. Manish drives 265 more miles than Janice. Manish drives 642 miles. How many miles does Janice drive? It's asking you to compare the two numbers. Remember, how many miles does Janice drive? Okay, Manish drives 265 more miles. You have to do addition here. Nika has 90 pencils, 40 of them are yellow, 13 are green, and 18 are red, and the rest are blue. How many blue pencils does she have? Okay, Omar says that 2/3 is less than 4/6 because 2/3 is between 0 and 1/2 and 4/6 is between 1/2. Here you're going to want to time this one by 2 to get that new fraction. Down here, write each fraction in the correct answer space to show whether the fraction is closer to 0 or to 1. Look at the fractions and find the good answers. That takes care of this lesson 13.5. Remember to do all the assignments, review all the videos online. You will be doing them in your workbook, plus you'll be submitting them through Google Classroom to me.